Welcome back to another episode. I'm so glad you're here. And I want to say something before we even begin today. Before we get into what I believe is one of the most important conversations I have ever had on this podcast, I want to say thank you. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for choosing this. Thank you for being the kind of woman who's in the middle of everything. She's managing, building, and holding everything together, but she still separate time to go inward, to grow, to ask the harder questions, to sit in that discomfort of becoming. That is not a small thing. That is actually the whole thing. And today I want to talk to you about the whole thing. Today I want to talk about identity. Not the surface kind, not the brand identity, not the identity that you have crafted for your bio or your elevator pitch or the way you introduce yourself at networking events. The deep kind, the kind that it runs underneath of all of it, the kind that is operating in you right now in ways that you might not even fully be aware of, the kind that is whether you are or you're not, whether you are consciously choosing or not, determine the results that you're getting right now, the clients you're attracting, the money that is not flowing or that it is flowing, the consistency you can or you cannot maintain, the level that you keep hitting and it can be seen or cannot be seen on a breakthrough. Your identity is not just who you think you are. Your identity is the operating system. And if the operating system, it has not been updated, is still running the old code, the old programming, the old stories that they were written by other people who did not know what you were capable of in circumstances that there no longer exist, then no strategy, no tactic, no course, no coaching, no rebrand, no amount of hustle will produce the results you are working towards. Because the results of your life will always match the story of your identity every single time. I have seen that without exception. Every time it will match your identity. And the only way to change the results is to change the story, to shift the identity, to really work on that. In that shift, that specific, uncomfortable, profoundly powerful shift is what we're talking about today. So get settled, get present, put down whatever is pulling your attention for the next little while, because what I'm about to share with you is not just information, it's a mirror. And what you see in it is the potential to change everything. So let's begin. I want to start with the question, and I want you to sit with it honestly, not the polished public facing answer, the honest one, the one you might not have said out loud. Who do you actually believe you are? Not who you want to be, not who do you aspire to become, not who you are in the vision that you have written in your journal or the affirmations that you have said in the mirror on the good days because you believe that's who you are. Who do you actually, at the deepest level, believe that you are? Because there is a version of that answer that it lives in your conscious mind. The version that you have worked on, the version that it says, I'm a powerful woman, I'm successful, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm worthy of abundance, I am called to greatness. And I believe you believe that consciously on the surface. But underneath that conscious belief, underneath the affirmations and the vision boards and the carefully curated identity work, there is another layer, a deeper layer, a layer that it was formed before you were old enough to question what was being written on it, a layer that holds the stories you received in your early years, in your family, in your body, in your experience. And that layer, the subconscious layer, the identity layer, holds things like I am someone who always have to struggle. I'm someone who gets close but never makes it. I'm someone who is not like other people, not as smart, not as worthy, not as capable of the kind of success that is for others, but not for me. I'm someone who is too much or not enough, or both, depending on the day. I'm someone who's fundamentally at the core of who I am. unsafe. These are not beliefs you choose. These are beliefs that they were given to you, written on you by experience that left marks, by words that they were landed in place they never should have been allowed to land, by the absence of things you needed that they were never given, by the presence of things that it should not been there, by generations of women who came before you who carry this version of these stories and pass these stories to you, not out of malice, but out of the only truth they knew. And here's what I need you to understand: those beliefs, the ones that you did not choose, the ones that they were given to you, the ones that live in the subconscious layer that you might have barely touched in your personal development work, those beliefs are not passive. They're not just sitting there quietly while your conscious mind does the work of building a business. They are active, they are running the show, and you don't even notice. Every decision you make, every price you set, every offer you launch, every piece of content you create or don't create, every yes you give when you should say no, every no you give when you are terrified to say yes, every single one of those is being filtered through your identity, through the subconscious story of who you believe you are. And until that story changes, until the identity shifts, the patterns will not shift. The cycle will not break. The ceiling will not lift. You will keep working, keep trying, keep investing, keep starting over. And you will call it bad luck, or wrong timing, or the wrong niche, or the wrong strategy, but it will be your identity, that identity that it was built on you. It was always the identity. I want to talk about what identity actually is, because I think we use the word very loosely without understanding the full way of what it's describing. Your identity is the sum total of everything you believe fundamentally that is true about yourself. And this is the collection of stories, experience, conclusions, and belief, conscious and unconscious, that answer the question of who am I? And that answer, that layer, complex, partly chosen, mostly inherited answer, creates what science says and researches call a self concept, a mental model of yourself, a filter through which every experience, every opportunity, every piece of feedback, every result passes before interpreted into respond. Your self concept determines what you notice, what you believe is possible for you, what you feel that you deserve, what are you willing to ask for, what are you willing to receive, what you will do when you get it, what you will do when you don't. And it's the most comprehensive operating system in existence, more powerful than any external circumstance, more determined than any strategy, more fundamental than any skill. And here's what Dr. Joe Dispenza has said, that I come back to it again and again because it has changed the way I understood this work. 95% of who you are by the time you're an adult is a set memorized behavior, emotional reactions, hardwired attitudes, belief, perceptions that they function like subconscious program. 95%. Think about that. That means the conscious mind, the part of you that reads the books, that listens to the podcast, does the courses, makes the plans, sets the goal, says the affirmations, that part represents only 5% of who you are in any given moment. Five. Imagine that. Only 5%. And the 95%, the deprogram, the memorized self, the subconscious identity, that is running in the background every single second, automatically, without your conscious awareness, filtering, shaping, directing, reinforcing. So when you wonder why you know the strategy, but you cannot execute it, why you know what to do, but you cannot make yourself do it, why you make the plan on Sunday and abandon it by Tuesday, that is not willpower problem. That is 95% problem. That is the subconscious identity doing what it's designed to do, maintain consistency with the story that it knows. And you cannot outwork the 95% like this. You cannot hustle harder than your subconscious programming. You cannot strategy your way through it an identity that it doesn't match the life you are trying to build. The only thing that it changes the results permanently is changing the program, shifting the identity, updating the operating system. That is the work. Not the only work, but the foundation work, the work that you cannot skip. I want to tell you about the ceiling because almost every woman I have ever worked with has encountered this. You know the one. It's not the ceiling that it stops you from starting. Most of you are magnificent starters. You begin with fire, with clarity, with a vision so vivid you can feel it before it's real. You launch, you create, you show up with everything you have. And for a while, it works. You grow, the clients come, the revenue shows up, the visibility expands, the momentum builds, and you start to believe that this time is different. This time you have cracked the code. This time the strategy is right, the timing is right, the version of you doing the work is finally the right version. And then you hit a ceiling. Not dramatically, usually not a sudden crash, more likely slow, confusing, deceleration. The growth that it was happening, it slows down. The launch that it was converting, it stopped converting. The clients that they were coming easily start to come with much effort. The creativity that it was flowing, it starts to feel forced. And you cannot figure it out why. Because nothing changed. You did not stop working. You did not stop learning. You did not stop showing up, but something stopped moving. And the ceiling is different for every woman, but the cost is always the same. She grew until she outpaced her identity. She built into the external results were larger than the internal story that she held about herself. And then the subconscious mind, loyal, utterly consistent, began to use the correction to bring the outside back into line with the inside to make the reality match the story. Because that's what it does. The subconscious mind is not against you. It is your consistency. Is for the maintenance of the known, the familiar, the safe. It's trying to keep you safe on what you know. And when you start to exceed the knowing, when you start to build a business and income of level of visibility, a level of impact that is bigger than the identity that lives 95% in you, the subconscious pulls back and it creates the sabotage, the inconsistency, the mysterious resistance. That launch that it should have worked, now it didn't. The client relationship that somehow went sideways, the moment where everything was going well and you found a way, unconsciously, brilliantly, now stop. That is not malfunction. This is the system working exactly as it's designed. The only problem is that the system was not designed based upon outdated information. It's based upon old evidence, based upon the story that it was true at once, or that at least you believe to be true, but it's no longer your reality. That information kept you safe then, but now it's stopping you. And the system now needs to be updated. The ceiling is not made out of glass, it's made out of identity. And identity can be rebuilt. Let me talk to you about where identity comes from. Because understanding the source is the beginning of the authority to change it. Your identity was not written once in one place by one hand. It was written continuously across years by thousands of different inputs. The first and the most foundational input is your early childhood experience. The research is very clear on this. The years from birth to approximately 7 years old are what neuroscience call the brainwave state, a state of highly suggestible, deeply impressionable, almost hypnotic receptivity. A child in this state absorbs everything, the environment, the emotions, the behaviors, the belief without the filter of critical thinking, without the ability to evaluate or question. The young brain simply records. And what it records becomes the foundation of the identity. the love that it was given or withheld, the safety that it was present or that it was absent, the messages spoken or unspoken about worth, about capability, about what is expected of a woman in this family, the modeling of how adults relate to money, to work, to emotion, to conflict, to another person. All of it recorded, all of it filed, all of it running. The second input is your family system. I talk about this a lot because I think this is one of the most underestimated sources of patterns. You did not arrive to this world as an isolated individual. You arrive in a lineage, a system, a networking of stories, beliefs, traumas, triumphs, and that stretches back to generations. The science of epigenetics, and this is not a metaphor, this is biology, has been demonstrated that the experience of our ancestors can alter the gene expression in ways that they are passed down through generations. That the trauma your grandmother survived, the poverty your mother grew up in, the limitation and the fear of the unhealed wounds of women who came before you, those things are not just family, they're history. They are in your body, they're in your biology. And the unconscious response of the nervous system that inherited is not just a DNA, but survival programming. In that programming, without your awareness, without your consent, shapes your identity, shapes what it feels safe, what it feels dangerous, what you feel that you deserve, what it feels too big. The third input is your personal experience, the specific individual things that happen to you as you move through life. The failures that they were not processed, the rejections that landed in your identity rather than circumstance, the moments of success where they were punishment or minimized or never celebrated, the experience of being seen or unseen, of being heard or silenced, of being told who you are by people or who you have to be. And those people did not have the right to define you, but you believed them anyways because you were young and because you did not have the resources to show them how you disagree with what they were telling you. These three sources, early childhood, family system, personal experience, work together to build a highly specific, highly personalized, highly convincing story of who you are. And that story feels like fact. That is the most important thing I need you to understand. It doesn't feel like a story, it feels like a reality. It feels like truth. It feels like simply the way things are, the way you are, the truth about what is possible for you and what is not. But all of that is a story written by imperfect people in an imperfect circumstance for a version of you that no longer exists. In you, the woman that you are today, with everything you have learned and built and heal and survive, you have the authority to write a different one. That is the identity shift. I want you to be very precise about what an identity shift is and what is not. Because I think it's a lot of confusion in the personal growth space about this. There are a lot of things that get called identity work, that they're not identity work. And I want to be clear about this distinction because doing the wrong thing and expecting the identity to change is one of the most demoralizing experience. I have watched women go through it. An identity shift is not an affirmation. Let me say that again, because I know some of you just heard something that challenged something you have been doing, and I want you to honor that. Affirmations are not identity work. Affirmations are at best a gentle introduction, a preparation, a daily decision to expose the conscious mind to a different possibility. And there is a value in that. I am not dismissing this practice. But repeating, I'm abundance 100 times in the mirror while the subconscious mind is running the program of we have always struggled with money. And that is just how it is. That is not a shift. That is a whisper into a hurricane. The affirmation only touches the 5%. The program runs at 95. An identity shift is not a mindset reframe either. Mindset work, the conscious restructuring of thoughts, The deliberate choosing of different perspective, the practice art of thinking differently about a situation. That is important. That is valuable. That is part of the toolkit. But it is still operating primarily at the level of the subconscious mind. And the identity lives below the conscious mind, in the body, in the nervous system, in the subconscious programming that it has been running for decades. You cannot think your way into a new identity. You can think in the direction of one, but the shift itself is deeper than that. This is the one that I see causes the most confusion and the most disappointment. Women have an extraordinary, transformative, life changing experience in a retreat, in a coaching session, in a moment of prayer, meditation, or deep emotional release. And then they feel genuinely incomplete, like a different person. And they are different. In that moment, something real happened, something shifted, a layer was peeled back, a light came in. But a breakthrough moment is the beginning of the shift, not the shift himself. The shift is what happened after the breakthrough, the daily discipline, patient, consistent work of living as the new identity, of choosing differently again and again in the moments when the old identity tries to pull you back, of building evidence, real experience, embodied evidence. The new story is true. The breakthrough cracks the door, the shift walks through it and stays. So, what the actual identity shifts is required? I want to walk you through this with some specific, because I think when women understand this mechanism, the work becomes less mysterious and more possible. The first thing an identity shift requires is radical honesty about your current identity. Not comfortable honesty, not the kind of self reflection that it skips the most painful parts, the kind that is honest, that it looks directly at the patterns, the self sabotage, the ceiling, the consistent place where you underdeliver on your own potential, and ask without flinching. What will a person have to believe about themselves to keep them creating this result? That question is a lantern. Because the answer, if you will let yourself really answer, will show you exactly what the operating program is, exactly what is the subconscious identity holds. The woman who's consistently undercharging, what does she believe? Does she believe that her worth is conditional? That she has to earn the right to ask for what she wants? That people will leave her, will reject her, will judge, will resent if she asks for too much? The woman who's brilliant at everything except finishing. What does she believe? Does she believe that at some level that completion is dangerous? That when the thing is done and is out in the world, the verdict will come and she will not be sure she can survive that verdict? The woman who builds following, but you cannot convert them into clients. What does she believe? Does she believe there is a difference between being liked and being worth paying for? And somewhere secretly, she agreed with that difference. She believes the pain is where the real pain begins, and she is not ready for that pain. The woman who cannot maintain consistency, no matter how committed she is, what does she believe? That she believes at the body level, at the nervous system level, the sustaining visibility is not safe. The being seen consistently over time invites something bad, even if she cannot name it. What is that bad thing is? Her body remembers something. These are the beliefs. This is the operating system programs. And until you name it specifically, honestly, without the cushion of self protected, you cannot address them. So the first step is the honesty. The second thing on identity shift requires a decision about the new identity. Not a wish, not a hope, not a vision board, a decision. This is different. This is enormous and it's almost impossible to overstate between a woman who's hoping to become something and a woman who has decided that she already is. The hope says, one day when I have the evidence, when I have the money, I will believe I am that woman. The decision says, I am the woman. The evidence is coming. My job is to live in that truth and let the evidence catch up. This is the radical part. This is the part that it makes the nervous system uncomfortable because the decision comes before the proof. The identity precedes the result. That is not the order we're conditioned to operate in. We are conditioned to believe. To get the results first, then feel worthy after. Succeed first, then believe you are successful. Build a business, then believe you are a businesswoman. But the identity shift works the opposite way. Become the woman first internally in the decisions you make, in the way you carry yourself, in the standards you are holding, in the price you name, in the content you create, in the clients you say yes, and to the ones you say no. Become her first, and then, not immediately, not overnight, but inevitable, the external reality reorganize itself around that internal truth. Because that is what the subconscious mind does. It creates consistency between the inside and the outside. You have experienced this in the direction of limitation. Now you get to experience in the direction of expansion. The third thing in identity shifts requires embodiment. This is where women stop short. They do the thinking work. They journal about the new identity. They write the declaration. They feel the feeling and the meditation. They connect genuinely and beautiful with the vision of the woman that they're becoming. And then they go about their day exactly as they always have. Embodiment is different. Embodiment is the new identity expressed through your body, through your actions, through your behavior, through the choices made in real time, not in the safety of the journal or the stillness of meditation, but in the moment when the old patterns start to hold you back. When the client asks for your price and the old identity wants to apologize for the discount, the new identity names the number with the stillness and waits. When the piece of content is ready to be posted and the old identity wants to delete it, the new identity posts that content and it doesn't check the analytics for 2 hours. When the launch is ready to go and the old identity wants to tweak and delay 6 more times, 6 more weeks, the new identity launches it. Not perfectly, but alive. When the opportunity arises, the old identity will call it too big, too soon, not ready. The new identity says yes and figures it out how she will handle it. Each of those moments is a vote for the new identity over the old program. In neuroscience is unambiguous on this. Behavior reinforces belief. Experience creates identity. Every time you act from your new identity, every single time, no matter how small is the action, you are laying down a new neural pathways, building new evidence, teaching the subconscious mind a new story. Not just by thinking, but by doing it, by choosing again and again. Until the new story is not aspirational, until it is simply who you are. I want to talk about something that Dr. Joe Dispenza calls the quantum leap because I think it speaks to what actually happened in a genuine identity shift in a way that I found both scientifically rigorous and spiritually profound. The concept is this: most of us are trying to change our life by modifying our behavior within the context of our current identity. We're trying to create a new future while living in the memories of the past. We're trying to build differently while thinking about the same thoughts, feeling the same emotions, making the same choices, and expecting a different result. And the quantum leap is the moment when a person steps entirely out of the current identity, out of the familiar thoughts, the familiar emotions, the self concept, and into a completely new way of being. Not incrementally, not gradually, completely. It is the moment when you stop being the person who's trying to build business and become the person who has one. When you stop being the person who's trying to learn how to charge her worth and become the person who knows her worth. When you stop being the person who is working towards confidence and you become the person who is confidence. Not by pretending, not by performing, but genuinely, completely from the inside out, deciding that becoming is already done. That the woman on the other side of that shift is not who you are trying to be, is who you already are. Recognize it. Uncover that woman. You are already there. Step into it. Stop letting fear in the old program run your life. This is what Paul was describing when he wrote, "Do not conform to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." And this is what Stephen Furtick is pointed at when he talks about identity crisis that precedes every breakthrough. The moment when you have to choose between the person that you have been and the person that God is calling you to become. This is what Danny Morel means when he talks about the decision, the one single not going back decision, that it separates the people who change from the people who stay the same. It is the quantum leap, the complete total internal reorganization of self. And it is available to you, not as a concept, as a lived experience, but it requires you to fully release the old identity first. In that, the release is often the hardest part. It is because I have walked through that. Let me talk about the grief because that's an important part. Because I don't think we have talked about this enough in the identity work conversation. There is a grief that it comes with genuine identity change. And it's a little painful, a real, legitimate, sometimes surprising grief. Because the old identity, even the painful parts, even the limiting parts, even the parts that they have cost you clients, revenue, and peace for years of spending in this cycle, the old identity is familiar, is the known. It is yours. And the way that sometimes you have carried for a long time becomes yours. Even if it is heavy, even if it's wrong, even if it was never actually yours to begin with. And when you begin to release it, when you begin to genuinely let go of that story of the struggling woman, the not enough woman, that I'm almost there, the woman who has always start over, there is a grief, a mourning of self, in some ways felt like protection because the old identity served a purpose. That is important to acknowledge. The smallness, the limitation, the self sabotage, they all serve a purpose once. They kept you safe in the context of the world where being small was safer than being seen, where staying beneath the ceiling was safer than pressing against it, where not having the thing was safer than having it and losing it. Those protected strategies were intelligence response to the real circumstance. They were created and adapted. They got you through life. You are not wrong for having them. You simply have outgrown them. And outgrowing something, even something that it was limiting you, involves loss. I want you to let yourself feel that, not to wallow in it, not to use it as a reason to stay, but to honor, to acknowledge that that woman you are becoming is not in opposition to the woman you have been. She's an evolution of her. She is what it becomes possible when the woman who has survived is stop managing survival and start creating her life. She's the fullness that is always was inside of her, waiting for you to stop shrinking long enough for her to finally fully emerge. The grief is real. And on the other side is freedom. I want to talk to you about a relationship between identity and faith. Because I think this is where the spiritual components of this work becomes not just meaningful, but essential. There is a version of identity work that is purely psychological, that treats identity as a construct built by experience, modified by intention, maintained by behavior. And that framework is accurate and it is useful. But I have found in my own life and in the lives of the women that I work with, the most profound, the most lasting, the most complete identity shifts happen not just through psychological work, but through spiritual work. Because when you peel back all the layers, when you strip away the conditioning, the programming, the inherited stories, the wounds, what you find underneath is not a blank slate. You find something already written, a purpose, a calling, a design. You find those things, the truth of who God made you to be. Not the traumatized version, not the conditioned version, not the version that it learned to be small to be safe. The original version, the one that existed before the wounding, the one that has been there underneath of all of it, waiting. And identity work at this deep level is not the work of creating a new self. It's the work of recovering the true self, of peeling back what is placed on you, that it was never yours, releasing the stories that belong to other people, your parents, your ancestors, your culture, your circumstances, and returning to who you actually are, fearfully and wonderfully made, called, chosen, enough, brilliant. You have the greatness, not as an aspiration, as a fact. And when your identity is rooted in that and the unchangeable truth of who God made you to be, the metrics cannot shake it. The launch does not convert, cannot shake it. The follower count that is not where you want it to be, it cannot shake it. The slow month, the hard season, the moment when everything external is saying, maybe you're not enough, it cannot shake it. Because you are not drawing your sense from self, from the metrics. You're drawing it from something differently, more stable, from the creator himself who created you, from the calling that it was placed in you before you were even born, from the truth that doesn't rise and fall with the algorithm. That is the foundation. That is the deepest layer of identity shift. Not just, I believe I'm worthy, but I know who made me. And what he made has worth beyond anything I could earn, prove, or build. That knowing changes everything. Let me talk to you about what happened to the business when the identity shift, because I want to be very practical here. I want to connect the inner work to the outer work in the results and the way that is concrete and traceable. When the identity shifts, the prices changes first, not because you learn a new price strategy, but because the relationship between your sense of worth and the number you name shifts. The apologetic quality disappeared. The discounting before anyone asked disappeared. The price question, the price with the nervous system laugh, the price followed immediately by justification. All of that disappeared because those behaviors were expressions of the old identity. And the old identity is no longer running the show. The new identity names the numbers, weights, and it means it. When the identity shifts, the content changes. It becomes less careful and more true, less performative and more expressive, less what would they think and more here's what I know. Because the old identity created content from a place of seeking approval. The new identity creates it from a place of genuine desire to give something real. And people will feel the difference. And it will happen immediately, not because the production quality changed, not because the strategy changed, because the energy changed, because the woman behind the content changed, because what is coming through the screen now is not just a woman performing confidence, it is a woman who actually has it. When the identity shifts, the clients change. Not in a dramatic way, everyone's firing their clients, but sometimes that happens too. But to the quality of the relationships changes, the dynamic changes. The woman shifted identity no longer needs the client's approval the way she did once. She is not performing for them, trying to be, she's not wanting to shape herself based upon what they want, but she sees herself for who she is. She is simply herself. She doesn't need to become someone else for the clients to like her. And the clients who are meant to be with her, the ones who are aligned with the real version of her, the woman behind the branding, those clients find her consistently with that natural way that she could not manufacture before. When the identity shifts, the setbacks change. Not in the way that it stops happening. The setbacks are part of the building the real, and they do not disappear. But their relationship to them changes completely. The setback that it used to confirm the old identity, see, you were right. You are not enough. You knew this will happen. Now it lands differently because the identity is no longer looking for confirmation of the womb. The setback is information, data, feedback, and sometimes it's to learn and to adjust. Not evidence of who she is, not proof of a story, just something that happened on the way to where she was going. And she keeps going because her identity is not contagion on the setback cooperating. I want to address the women who have tried because some of you have done the work in this area. You have read the books, you have done the programs, you have had the breakthroughs, you have declared a new identity, you have journaled a new story, you felt the shift in that moment of genuine transformation, and then something happened. Maybe it was a hard month, a difficult client, you launched and it did not go the way you planned, a moment of vulnerability that it was not met with the right criticism, a season of life that demanded more than you had available. And the old identity came back like a reflex, like breathing, like something so deeply embedded in you that even the most sincere, most genuine commitment to the new story, it was not enough to hold it against the pull of the old one. And you wonder if this shift is even impossible for you. If you are too far gone, too deeply programmed, too entrenched into the patterns that have defined you for too long. I want to answer this directly. You are not too far gone, but the shift you experienced was real. And the fact that it did not hold does not mean it failed, it means it was incomplete. Because identity is not change in a single moment of breakthrough. A breakthrough is the crack of the foundation of the old story. The shifts is what it gets built in the space that that crack creates. And building takes time. It takes repetition. It takes support. It takes the daily, unsexy, unglamorous, sometimes incredibly discouraging work of choosing the new identity when the old one is louder, when the old one feels more true, when the old one has evidence on the side, and the new one, it only has a decision. The women that I have watched make permanent, lasting identity shifts, the one whose business has been transformed, whose income has changed, whose their entire relationship transformed, they did not do it in a retreat weekend. They did it in the slow, consistent, and supported, courageous practice of becoming day after day after day with someone in their corner who can see who they were becoming when they cannot see themselves, who can hold the mirror steady when everything in the woman experience was trying to shatter, who could say, I see her. The new version is real. Keep going, keep moving. That support is not luxury, it's how the shift actually happens. And there is no shame in needing support. The most extraordinary transformation in the history of human development happened in the context of relationship, of community, of someone who believed in the becoming before it was complete. You were not designed to do this alone. Let me give you the practical anchor for today. Three things you can begin doing immediately to start building your new identity. Not the whole shift in one moment, the beginning, the first bricks in the new foundation. The first one is act as you are, but for real, not pretending, not performing. Genuinely ask yourself in the moments that matter, the moments of decisions, the moments of creation, the moments of choosing, what will the new identity do here? Not the woman I used to be, not the woman that I am when I'm scared, the woman that I have decided that I am. What did she charge? What did she post? What did she say yes to? What did she says no to? How did she carry herself in this conversation? What standard did she hold in this interaction? Ask the question, and then this is the part that most people skip. Do what she would do, even if it's uncomfortable, even if the old identity is screaming, even if every instinct built for years of the old story is pulling you in another direction. Do what the new identity will do. One choice right now, today. The second thing is audit your evidence because the old identity survives on evidence. It collects it, it curates it, highlights it, and returns to what is constant. All the times that you failed, all the times that you were rejected, almost all the time that you worked and nothing happened. It confirmed the old story. And the new identity needs evidence too. So start collecting the new evidence. Every time you do the thing that is scary, every time you name the number without apologizing, every time you post the content without deleting it, every time you show up when you don't feel ready, every time you choose the new identity over the old program, write it down. Literally in your phone, in your journal, somewhere, a record of the new evidence, of the growing file proof of the new story. That this new story is real, that the new woman exists, that the shift is happening. Evidence is not just for the conscious mind. The subconscious mind updates on evidence too. Real experience, embodied, felt, lived. Experience is one of the primary ways the subconscious program gets rewritten. Create the evidence and then remind yourself of it daily. Return to it the way the old identity returns to the evidence. Let it land, let it be real. The third thing is get into your body because the identity is not just a mental construction, it lives in the body. The posture, the way you move in a room, there are not just physical realities, they are identity expressions, and they are bidirectional, meaning your identity shapes your body and your body shapes your identity. A research has shown that even 2 minutes of embodying a posture of confidence and expansion change the hormonal chemistry of the body. It changes the cortisol, the testosterone levels, changes the feel, the sense of who you are. This is not just a small thing. This means you can begin the shift of that identity from the outside and as well as on the inside. Stand differently, breathe differently, look at something differently, move through the world in the body of the woman you are becoming. Not as a performance, it's a practice. It's the physical embodiment of the internal decision. I want to say something about timing because I know that some of you are in a season right now where everything is pressing, where the financial pressure is real and the timeline feels urgent. And the idea of doing the inner work on identity when what you need is clients this month feels like the most unpractical, most unhelpful suggestion you can possibly receive. I hear that. And I want to say something that I meant with completely sincerity. The identity shift is not separate from the clients and the work. The identity shift is the client work. It's the most directly, practically, immediately impactful thing you can do for your revenue, for your conversion, for your consistency, for every single business metric you're worrying about right now. Because the reason the clients are not coming at the level you need them and the consistency you need them is almost never the strategy. It's always the identity, the way you're showing up in your content, the energy beneath the words, the confidence beneath the camera, the groundness beneath the offer. That is determined by your identity, the way you're behaving on sales conversations, whether you are leading them or being led by them, whether you are grounded in your value or subtly seeking permission, whether the prospect feels that they're being invited into something real or sold something by someone who needs them to say yes. That is determined by identity, the way you're pricing and packaging and position yourself in the market, whether you are leading with authority or apologizing for your presence. That is determined by your identity. Change the identity and the clients will change. The revenue will change. The business will change, not as a side effect, but as a direct result. We are coming towards the end of this episode. And before I give you the closing, I want to give you, before I say the things that I most want you to carry with you when you turn off this podcast and go back to your life, I want to do something I have been building towards this entire conversation. I want to describe her, the woman on the other side of the identity shift. She wakes up in the morning and she knows who she is. Not in the way that she needs to be reminded, not in the way that she needs affirmations or the vision board or the motivational voice note to get her started. She knows and is settled, and it is in her bones. She knows what she's building and why. She knows the people she's called to serve, and she serves them without apology, without over explaining, without that desperation of someone that needs to be seen so they can see her value before she can fully believe in herself. No, she already knows who she is. She creates content from a place of overflow, from the genuine abundance of a woman who has something real to say and cannot say it. Her content does not ask for approval. It does not edge. It does not perform. It simply is. It's true. It's clear. It's deeply useful. And unmistakably, it's hers. She prices herself from a place of identity. The number she names is not a question. It's not a hope. It's a reflection of what she knows that her work is worth. And she names it in a way she states her own name, with simplicity, with certainty, with the calm of a woman who is not waiting for you to agree before she believes it. She is consistent, not because has solved every motivation problem, but because showing up is no longer a decision she makes each day. It is simply who she is. The identity made is inedible. She receives clients, money, praise, opportunities. She receives without the anxiety of the almost, without the waiting of the other shoe to drop, without that self sabotage of the woman whose identity cannot yet hold the good thing that she has worked for. She simply opens her hands and lets it come. She receives. She's magnetic, not because she learned a magnetic marketing strategy, because she is fully, finally complete herself. And there's nothing more magnetic on earth than a woman who has come all the way home to herself. She's not perfect. She has hard days, hard seasons, moments, doubts, times when the old voice is louder, and she has to remind herself, has to choose again who she actually is. She is the center that holds, because the identity is real now, not aspirational. Real. That is her. She's no longer looking for that outside. In everything she's building, the business, the income, the impact, the legacy is being built on that foundation, and it will last. That woman is not a dream. She is you. She is exactly you on the other side of that decision, on the other side of the work, on the other side of the identity shift. You cannot skip it. If you are ready, if this episode has done something inside of you, it has cracked something open, if something landed, if you found yourself saying, yes, that is me, that is exactly what has been happening to me, I want to invite you to take the next step with me. Because the identity shift does not happen on a podcast episode. It begins here, in the recognition, in the naming of it, in the moment of finally understand what it's been in a way. But the shift itself, the real permanent fundamental work of rebuilding the identity from the inside out, that happens in the doing. Consistency, supported, deeply guided work of becoming. And I want to do that work with you. I have a small number of spots available for my private coaching, and I'm very intentional about who I work with, because this work is serious and it deserves to be held with care. I work with women who are done doing it the hard way, who have tried the strategies, the courses, the programs, and they have built the evidence, painful, honest evidence that the thing that is standing between them and the business they're trying to build is not the strategy, it's the identity. And they are ready, really ready, not someday ready, not when things calm down ready, but now ready to address the root. If that is you, go to www.therealnextlevel.com and apply. Tell me where you are. Tell me what the ceiling looks like. Tell me what you have been trying and you feel like you're still carrying that. And let's do the real work together. Before I go, I want to say something to the women who are not quite ready, who's listening to this whole episode and felt everything, the recognition, the hopeful ache of finally understanding the pattern, but who is still standing at the edge. I see you. And I want you to know the fact that you are here means something. You did not stumble onto this podcast by accident. It was not a coincidence. You did not listen to this for too long by accident. Something in you was looking for this. Something in you is ready. Something in you knew that it needed to hear this. In that knowing, that quiet, persistent, deeply faithful part of you that it keeps searching, it keeps asking, keeps believing there is a version of your life that is different from this one, that is not a wishful thinking. That is the true identity, the one underneath of all the programming, the one God put there before the wounded came, the one that has been patient enough to wait while you gather the experience you need to finally hear the message. She has been waiting a long time. She's ready now. She is at the edge. And I think you know that. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already, because we go here every week. We have the conversations that most of the business space is afraid to have. We talk about what is actually happening beneath the strategy, beneath the metrics, beneath the showing up and showing off in the grinding. We talk about the woman because the woman is the business. And when the woman is whole, when she has done the work, made the shift, building the foundation, the business follows every time. Share this episode with someone who needs it. You know who she is. She has been in your mind since the moment this conversation started. She has been trying to figure it out why she keeps hitting the wall. She is brilliant and stuck, and she deserves to hear this. That it is not her fault, but it is her responsibility. Send her this. Be the bridge. Leave me a comment if this conversation meant something to you. Every comment helped this message reach more women. And every woman who finds this message is one more woman who has the chance to stop spinning and start building in solid ground. I love you. I'm so proud of you for showing up for this. You are not stuck. You are not broken. You are not the person who's behind. You are more than capable of doing more than you think. You are in the middle of the most important shift in your life. And on the other side of this is more beautiful, more abundant, more aligned, more you, more than anything you have been trying to build, more than what you can imagine. The shift is available to you, and it starts with a decision. And that decision can be made right now, right here, in this moment. Choose her. Choose the woman you were made to be. She has been waiting long enough. I will see you on the next episode.